my name is Lauren De La Fuente, and I'm the coordinator on the Real-Time Energy Management Program at NYSERDA. That's RTEM for short. And NYSERDA stands for the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. So I'm thrilled to welcome you all online today. Thank you all for attending our second RTEM Talks event. Our first event was in September, and it featured a healthcare facility. And for our second event today, we are featuring a co-op building. And I'm very excited to welcome our speakers. This afternoon, we are joined by Derek K. Jones, President of Sherman Terrace Cooperative, Jonathan Benezri from Dual Fuel Corp, and Thomas Ye, the Technical Advisor to NYSERDA's RTEM program, who will be moderating today's talk. So our speakers will discuss their work at Sherman Terrace Cooperative, a 67-unit co-op building developed in 1957 in the heart of the Grand Concourse in the Southern Bronx. Specifically, how the building used the real-time energy management system from Dual Fuel to validate savings resulting from capital improvements, and how they informed their plan to comply with Local Law 97. I hope that there are many condo and co-op owners in the audience today, given our subject matter. We know that managing energy costs can be a significant financial challenge. Navigating the sea of information and solutions available in the market is daunting. We understand that your time as a dedicated board member, juggling both professional and personal responsibilities, is incredibly valuable. So now more than ever, it's crucial to understand your building's current energy performance and craft a long-term strategy that aligns with your needs, while being mindful of budget constraints, of course. So today we're here to share insights, expertise, and practical solutions to help you navigate this intricate landscape. Join us today as we break down how real-time energy management has helped this co-op manage the building's energy consumption and ensures sustainability, efficiency, and financial prudence. Our speakers have a lot of experience and have learned many lessons over the years, which they'll tell you themselves very soon. Some housekeeping notes: we are recording this webinar. It will be posted online, and the recording will be sent to the audience in a follow-up email. So I'll introduce our speakers now, share our agenda for the next 60 minutes, and we will get started. Derek K. Jones is the president of the co-op board at Sherman Terrace Cooperative and has helped manage the implementation of the building's energy projects. Jonathan Benezri is a product engineer at Dual Fuel. Dual Fuel provides energy management services, energy efficiency retrofits, and 24-hour emergency service to residential and commercial buildings. Thomas Ye, our panel moderator, is a recognized expert in energy management, building systems, and utility incentive programs. He has served as the technical advisor to NYSERDA's RTEM program since 2016. So now that you all know about our speakers, we would like to know a little bit about you yourself. We provided 2 survey questions when you joined the call today, and I hope you all got a chance to fill out the survey. And I thank you for providing that information about yourselves. Sal, are we able to reveal the results yet? Or I'll come back to that. Okay, it looks like we don't have the results yet, so I'll keep on going. Okay, I'll give it a couple minutes for everybody to fill out the survey. So I'll move on to the next slide, which is the agenda. So we will start with a 20-minute presentation from Jonathan and Derek. Then Thomas will lead our 20-minute panel discussion. After that, we will answer questions from the audience for 10 minutes and wrap up in the last 5. And what if I read the survey results at the end, and then we can just hand it over to Jonathan now? All right, so without further ado, I will pass it over to Jonathan to start his presentation.
All right, please. Okay, hi everyone, I'm Jonathan Benezri. I'm here representing Dual Fuel and the RTEM program. So we're going to tell you a little bit about RTEM and the specific project here, along with Derek. Next slide, please. Okay, so the agenda for this presentation. First, we'll talk a little bit about RTEM, introduce the program itself, what it means, how it works. Then I'll tell you a little bit about Dual Fuel Corp, our background, how we got into RTEM, and how we got in touch with Derek. That'll segue into the project at the Sherman Terrace Cooperative itself. Talk about the measures that were performed, some of the challenges and the way we approach the project. We'll finally look at how we achieved what we set out to achieve there and what the results of that effort were. Next slide, please. Okay, and one more. So what is RTEM? So RTEM, as Lauren said earlier, stands for Real-Time Energy Management. It is both a philosophy that is intended to envision a more sustainable future for buildings, but it's also a program here at NYSERDA that was started years ago. The goal of that program was to catalyze an industry for vendors that provide systems and services to buildings of all types. Co-ops like Sherman Terrace, condos, rentals, commercial buildings. The idea being that those systems and services help those buildings better understand what their buildings are saying, right? Their equipment is speaking, their boilers, their pumps have something to say, but if no one's listening, what good is it? So RTEM helps connect these vendors, these system and service providers with building managers and building owners to better help them gather and harvest that data and target inefficiencies, discover opportunities, and also improve the operations of their buildings, and also ensure that improved operation continues on and is sustainable going forward. One more note, very important, is that this data is, as a requirement of the program, is not just locally available. It's ported up to the cloud so that it is accessible by other stakeholders, right? Not just the building operator, but the building manager, the building owner, the co-op board. And that way, anyone who is playing some role in the life of the building has an opportunity to take part. Next slide, please. So what you're looking at now is an infographic of Dual Fuel's RTEM platform, which we call Axent. So Dual Fuel, which I'll tell you more about in a minute, is a system provider and a service provider. So on this slide, it's gonna help me illustrate the system aspect of that, all right? The system is basically a product or a platform, some kind of tool that the system provider provides to the stakeholder, the building manager, and generally, trains that stakeholder on to help them understand their building and see the data coming from their equipment. In a lot of cases, system providers are looking at electrical energy usage. In some cases, like in Dual Fuels, we actually look primarily at natural gas and oil combustion and the energy that is consumed therein. So thermal energy. But the concept is the same. There's equipment in the building. In this infographic, you see a boiler on the bottom left. And that's just one example. The system consists of sensors and other kinds of devices, meters and whatnot, loggers that attach or are installed on that equipment and collect data. That data is then pushed up to the cloud, and then it is centralized, and analytics are run on that data. And the end result is there are actionable insights that the building manager or the operator can actually use to act on and improve the operation of their systems in the moment, in real time. Yep. Historically as well, there's all opportunities to use data, right? There's data that can help you learn of an impending, to ward off some kind of failure. There is data that can help you tune things to improve or lessen the intensity of an energy consuming operation. One quick differentiator that I'll point out for thermal energy RTEM systems is traditionally in New York City, buildings are heated according to the outdoor temperature. So if it's cold outside, the heat's on. If it's warm outside, the heat's off. Problem is, if it is a cold day, but the building's already warmed up, the equipment may not know to cease its operation, and that leads to overheating. So one benefit of a RTEM system like Axon is that there are sensors installed inside the apartments to take a representative sample of the indoor temperatures, so that unnecessary fuel spend can be clamped down on. And as a result, there is better efficiency and a healthier bottom line for the building. Next slide, please. Okay, and one more, please. So who is Dual Fuel Corp? Well, we are an RTEM system and service provider. We're also a mechanical services company, right? So we have plumbers and steam fitters and welders who actually go out and physically do the work. We specialize in New York City heating plants throughout the tri-state area. You can see a map here that shows all of the sites in and around New York City where we either have an active controls Axon installation or we provide mechanical service. In addition to the mechanical side of the business, obviously, we are able to take part in RTEM by virtue of our controls and monitoring platform, which again we call Axon, and the expertise and the talent behind that, which is the team at Dual Fuel that codes up all that software and manages all the data. Additionally, Dual Fuel is an energy supplier. The reason I think it's important to mention these things is because, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, it is important for the sustainability of the performance of RTEM measures that a holistic suite of services is included. And that's important because we'll talk about this. It's a bit challenging for building stakeholders to manage all of the various trades and disciplines that are needed. And so having all those services under one roof in a coordinated fashion, I think can be a big advantage. Mm-hmm. So you can go to the next slide. If there's a high-level way to encapsulate what I would say is Dual Fuel's vision for our customers, who are building managers, co-ops, owners, like many of you on the call, it's to maximize comfort and minimize costs. I'll share a little story, quick anecdote from my time before I was at Dual Fuel, when I worked at a large real estate developer and owner in New York City. And I was dealing with an emergency in the middle of the winter when the heat went down in a 200-unit building. And I wasn't sure who to call. I thought it might be the building, the controls provider. I thought it might be the boiler service vendor. I ended up calling 2 or 3 different companies and wrangling through some finger pointing. And I ended up finally solving the problem, but not without a lot of effort on my part. And so by offering all these services, Dual Fuel aims to reduce these headaches for building managers and those who represent buildings, co-op boards, and the like, by taking full responsibility for ensuring that the operation of the systems is smooth, that failures are averted before they happen, and that the systems are operated as efficiently as they can be, with the full awareness of the building stakeholders through those RTEM systems. Okay, let's go to the next slide, and I'll let Derek talk a little bit about the project.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to the partners, including Dual Fuel, NYSERDA, and all of the people that are involved in where Tenant and Sherman Avenue has arrived at. We are, right now, we have a letter grade of A. We have 93. We have an Energy Star rating, and it's all due to a process of laying out a path that would be successful for us to reduce our energy costs and also, secondly, achieve local law 97. When we took on this effort, I came into the board in 2019, and there had been discussions about converting from oil to natural gas. And that was how the relationship was developed with Dual Fuel and trying to achieve those goals. And in that change, we reduced our greenhouse gas emissions and stumbled into what would be the 2019 Climate Mobilization Act that would be constraining greenhouse gas for buildings throughout the city. So our path was kind of, we stumbled into it accidentally, but it was wonderful because it's put us in a position that we are going to be able to have a clean, sustainable building that moves more and more toward wherever this industry takes us, electricity or wherever. So we replaced our oil to natural gas. We also replaced the boiler controls. We used to have an old boiler, and that's good, but we needed to replace the controls so that we could implement some of the things that Jonathan was talking about, that real-time energy management knowledge, so that almost your boiler is talking to you and can share information that improves the building. So in addition to that, we installed domestic hot water tanks, and that was so that the boiler would not have to run during the summer months, reducing our overall energy use, and then once again, reducing our operational costs. So internally, we've made a ton of changes, which are really wonderful, and we are seeing those improvements. Also, we actively got the board members involved, or I'm sorry, I should say the shareholders, by putting submeters in their building for the electric. One of the things that this particular cooperative is that the shareholders never had to engage in paying for their own electricity. And the studies have shown that when you are more aware of your energy use, you are more likely to use less. So that helps us inform people about their energy use. And although we are still working on the data for that, we are seeing a decrease in our overall energy use since putting submeters into the building. So that's all internally, the things that are happening. Jonathan spoke about the small temper gauges that are put into the units. And through learning through Dual Fuel, they have not put those in all of the apartments. They've only put them on the top 2 floors of the apartment. They only have to put them in, I think, a certain percentage of apartments, and that information feeds how the boiler is going to run. So typically they're in their upper floors. As heat rises, the top floor is the last thing to heat. So once the top floors are heated, it informs you about the rest of the building. And so we are able to reduce our heat exposure from 80 degrees down to 74 degrees because we can better determine what's going on in the building with these sensors. So it's been really, really great. I can't thank you enough for, leading us down this path and giving us some direction. And this part of this journey is, which I'm sure we're going to talk about later, is a pathway to achieving some of these goals. Sherman Terrace Cooperative is, a working class co-op, and we're under tight restraints. We don't have revenue driving forces in this cooperative environment. So we have to be very smart with how we are using money and how we're going to sustain ourselves. So this is right along the pathway of achieving those goals. And at the same time, we're helping the planet, and we are becoming clean, and all those wonderful things too, which are super important.
That's a great way to segue, actually. So everything up here you pretty much covered. I'll say 2 quick things, because you just talked about how you're cleaning up the operation of the building. And I would say that first measure of the oil to gas conversion was the first step in that process, right? That was kind of a precursor to RTEM, but it's something that I think a lot of other stakeholders on this call either went through or would be good candidates for. And that, of course, came from a program that New York City rolled out years back to incentivize building owners to convert from oil to gas.
Absolutely.
With the Bronx primarily in mind, really is an air quality and emissions improvement effort. Of course, you went through all the other measures. The one on the right at the bottom, I'll mention real quick, which is, and this ties into what you're saying about the financial aspect, right? Of how do you keep funding these kinds of measures. So now that we've also been able to tap into your utility consumption data, right? That is not something that we measure directly. That is something that comes from your Con Ed gas meter. But through the magic of Green Button Connect, which Dual Fuel has leveraged, we are taking that consumption data and exposing it to you and your colleagues on the board, and of course our own people, so that you can view it in real time.
Yeah.
So if your boiler decided to consume twice as much energy for a particular reason on Tuesday than it did on Monday, you would know that without having to wait an entire month for the bill.
Right. And I did forget the pièce de résistance of all of this is that we also installed solar on our roof, which was an amazing feat. Another one of the incredible partners we have, which is Best Energy Power. They were incredible as a vendor. They were in and out. They were efficient, and we have cut off a third of our energy cost through the use of the solar. We have 308 photovoltaic arrays on our roof, which are helping us once again to reduce our cost in a clean manner. And, which we'll get into later, all of this stuff is through thought and process by an amazing group of individuals that I work with on my board, on the board, the Sherman Terrace board, and they just are focused and driven and care about sustainability and quality of life. And these measures are leading us in that direction. This provides you an opportunity so that you can improve the quality of life in your building in other ways when you're saving in this manner. So
Yeah, excellent.
Let's go to the next slide, and you can say anything more you want to about the. Oh, first we got the pictures of the measures. Okay.
yeah, pictures.
So real quick, we've got the oil to gas conversion on the top left, some of the mechanical work that took place, new chimney being fit on the roof to accommodate the new domestic hot water heater. And then
Domestic hot water right
Right.
there. Look at that beautiful copper.
and I guess that's like a rendering, right, of the panels on the roof.
Right. So yeah, right there is a rendering of what panels look like now. You can Google it if you want to see the
Oh,
real deal.
Google
but
Maps.
Google Maps,
That's true.
but that's what our array looks like. And once again, that's about $25,000 a year that we are
Wow.
getting in credits from, that just sitting out on your roof.
Right. Okay, we can go to the next slide.
Ah, look at that. Look at that. That handsome guy that Congressman Richie Torres there, a handsome fella. Yeah, he actually came as part of our kind of inaugural presentation of our solar panels in support of that solar panel. So he came to our roof and visited and took a photo op. And, just as a reminder, he is part of the administration that has put out this Inflation Reduction Act, which has a ton of money that is coming through all different channels to help everybody move toward a more sustainable existence. in
Absolutely.
NYSERDA. So keep that guy in mind.
Okay. Next slide.
Ah, look at that. That is the amazing group of individuals I work with, the Sherman Terrace Cooperative board members, and we all come together once a month and talk about what's going on in the building and how to make it better and try and implement new and positive ideas. Last week, we just had a compost workshop, which is really incredible since that's coming up in October of 2024. And then the other photo, those two handsome fellows on the left and the right, this Jonathan guy here and Rush. And the guy with the skinny legs in the middle is me, by the way. So that's in front of the building.
Next slide, please. Okay, so thank you very much, Derek. Very grateful to your team for being so forward-thinking and assertive. So what you're looking at now is a screenshot of the Axent interface. So now we're getting into the details of what was done at the building. High level, there's a lot of data here, but on the right, you see that representative sampling of the apartment temperatures in the building, which is obviously important. In the middle, you see the readings that come from the sensors in the boiler room. So it tells you, is the boiler running? What is the steam pressure? What is the outgoing water temperature? And then on the left side is where Derek and the rest of his board can actually interact with the system. And so meaning that this is where they can make adjustments, activate equipment as needed, modulate, the intensity of, how long the equipment runs. So this kind of interactivity gives you the power to control your own destiny, right? If you think that you can achieve optimal comfort, you can achieve optimal efficiency without sacrificing comfort by lowering the set point a degree or two, right? And we work with you on this, right? We work with our customers to find that sweet spot. This is how you do it, right? This is how you achieve maximal comfort and minimal cost. Right?
So how do I use this? So before we moved to the system, the building was running at about 80 degrees in the winter, and it was doing outside temperature, and it didn't have the sensors inside. So we know that that's not sustainable. But we also have elderly people living in the building, so we have to think about their comfort too. Because you could come down to 62, you know what I mean? That would be the most efficient, but you want people to be comfortable. So you have to find some middle ground. And so for us, that middle ground is about 74 degrees. I wish we could go to 72, but it's just not, we're not there yet. And so that is typically the warmth in the building when it's 32 degrees or higher. The great thing is after spending time talking with some of the engineers, we said, well, when it gets really, really cold, below 32 degrees, we just got to keep up with that because the 74 isn't working. So they created a piece of software that when the temperature outside goes down below 32, the inside temperature goes up to 77 to accommodate for those.
We're going to do a quick little deep dive of that actually in a few slides.
Okay. We have about 2 minutes.
Yeah, let's go to the next slide actually.
That's all right.
Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this here is one of the tools that we were able to build using that real-time gas consumption data that we got by hooking up to your Con Ed utility API. And so this is basically a heat map that shows Green Button Connect. This shows hour by hour, and this is all part of the same Axon platform, all accessible to you through one login, right? Nice and easy. This shows hour by hour how much gas is being consumed. So when you make a change to your set point at 12 p.m. and now you want to let one day pass and check the next day at 12 p.m., you can actually see a difference in your therms per heating degree day. So your weather normalized gas consumption,
right,
based on this real-time data.
Wow.
Next slide, please. All right, so this is a screenshot showing the history of your data, right? So what we looked at before was the live data a few slides ago. But what if you want to do a deeper dive and look at patterns, right? This platform, as any good RTEM platform would show you, allows you to view the data over various time spans, which is what allows for insights to be determined based on this data. And it's not only data's not only going to you and your board members, it's something that we look at, right? We have people, energy managers, that are looking at this data and are looking for signs of problems and efficiencies, right? So diagnostics, we build alarms, we build sparks to indicate when something needs to be communicated to you, and you can act on that. And that's what ensures that this system continues to perform. Let's keep going. We got a couple more slides to go. Okay, that cold temperature adjustment that you just mentioned, right? I love this because it's something that I think is great about the Axon platform. It's open and buildable. You made a request to us, right? You said when the weather goes below 30 degrees outside, I want my set points to jump 3 degrees. We were able to build it for you, right? We created the custom software, and now it actually works. And you are maintaining that level of comfort that your building needs. One more slide, please.
How did I learn about the 3 degrees? These guys, 3 degrees is when humans can feel the difference in temperature.
Is there anything you want to say about the apartment level electric submeter data?
Right. So we also, once again, I spoke earlier that we put submeters into everybody's apartment, and therefore we're seeing a reduction in overall energy use. That is also helpful for us to understand to help people, what is I've lost my train of thought for a second. I think the submetering is an incredible tool to be able to get clarity about where there may be places to improve energy use. I think this gives you a real data to help people understand why it would be important to have energy efficient air conditioning, why it might be important to have an energy efficient refrigerator.
Right.
By showing them the real data, they can say, well, it does make sense for me to make this change because I'll actually save time and money.
Right.
So we installed the submeters, and an additional improvement that we got out of putting the submeters in is that we replaced about 26 of the fuse panels that were outdated, and that was a hidden benefit that we received from that. So that helped us to improve our overall fire compliance. And that was a surprise, you know what I mean? Those old fuses were, upgraded in a way that was a lot safer for the building. So we kind of got an extra benefit from installing those submeters.
Next slide, please.
Good story.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up. You can go to the next slide. We'll wrap up by talking about how we approached this project and, what some of the challenges were and how we overcame them. So obviously, first up was talk to Derek, talk to his fellow board members and figure out what does this building need. Once we came on board, we surveyed the building, figured out, where to install the sensors and where to put the different pieces of equipment. We allocated the apartments that were to receive the temperature sensors, right? That's usually intended for a representative sample of the apartment lines, but it's also something that the building can weigh in on, right? If there's a particular problem apartment or if they just have particular areas that they want to know about. Once we did the install, we trained Jeremy, the site super. Derek was there for the training. Even if, there's an element of automation in this, right? It's not like you guys have to be 24/7 on the platform, but it's important that you know how it works. And we're always there to support you on that. Integrating with the third-party data, right? The data that comes from Con Ed, from your submeters, that's important as well. That was part of how we looked at this project. And then I think the thing that kind of closes this loop is the ongoing commissioning, right? The ongoing energy management, the ongoing relationship that we have with you and our other customers in this way to make sure that their buildings continue to perform. Let's look at some of the challenges that we faced. Next slide, please. So unfortunately, buildings are not products. They don't come off of an assembly line. Right? Every building is unique, which means that you have an element of customization needed. You have to design your solution kind of each time. Fortunately, there is a blueprint that at a high level you can follow. As I said earlier, it does help to work with a vendor, an RTEM system and services provider that will own a broad suite of the measures that are needed in their building. It just helps reduce the burden on the building stakeholders in terms of coordination and design and just quality assurance. So we brought a lot of those services to the table and we're able to keep those in-house. The apartment temperatures required getting into your apartments, getting into the units, which is always a challenge. But using wireless sensors that are really, literally like stick on the wall, makes it quick and easy and minimizes the disturbance for your residents.
They're about the biggest a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah,
They're very tiny.
They're not there exactly. People basically forget that they're even there.
So if you have a floor print, or if you have a footprint of the building that's all the same, they place that sensor in those top two floors in the same place, depending on the line that you're in, based upon the location, where would be the best place. Some people have them in their living room, some people have them in the hallway, but that consistency,
Do you want to talk about the capital budget planning at all? That was obviously important.
Right. So once again, we were in a lucky place with this whole thing because we were able to refinance our mortgage and reduce our interest rate. And that's what gave us the capital to be able to do all of these projects. So I'm hopeful that interest rates will come down again because one of the main sources of revenues for co-ops is refinancing. So I'm hopeful that will happen again, along with these NYSERDA rebates and grants that can help people achieve these goals.
Okay, next slide. So obviously that was how Derek was able to navigate the
Mhm.
financial challenges. In terms of the technical challenges, again, working with a sort of full suite services vendor and working with equipment and products that are modern and easy to use. And I think just having a platform that is open architecture that allows for the integration of third-party data. Again, it keeps it all under one single login for you, which is nice. Okay, and then last slide here. Next slide, please. So what does this look like when we talk about the numbers? You guys have been saving over $50,000 per year just based on all of these measures. And that's equivalent to about 26,000 therms. That's a very good savings. It doesn't come from just replacing the equipment. It comes from an active approach. Set points, following up with shareholders, making sure that they're not leaving their windows open. And then the electric data, as you mentioned earlier, was helpful to help bring about change in the building.
Yes.
And then just, having a solution that is flexible. So when you make a request, a year after the system is installed to say, hey, I want the system to do this when it's cold outside, that is, I think, a notable result.
Yeah.
So we're happy to provide that kind of flexibility to you guys.
Wow. I think you buried the lead there, putting this on the last slide. But that was excellent. Thank you. Now, we did run a little bit over, but this is obviously extremely informative. So I want to encourage everybody to submit their questions, but we already have questions. So I'm going to jump right there and then get through those. And then while we wait for more to come in, I have a few questions for you guys. Okay. So my first question, I'm going to just read out what I think the questionnaire is asking. And if I made a mistake, please submit another one. So first, Derek, will tenants be able to choose their own internal temperature for their living space? I assume they say that the co-op who owns their unit.
Right. Well, there are, unfortunately, this system is the entire building. And they have to take measurements throughout the building to kind of find a median. So in that sense, you are not able to control your space internally. We are at a place you've seen that we've had a lot of fires from people using heaters in their units. So that's not particularly a solution. So the goal is to figure out where those differentiations are in a building and try and accommodate in that manner. But at this point, I don't think the technology allows you to just warm your unit without impacting the entire boiler technology.
Right. I think the point is that you couldn't do that before because in the nature of it is really is a steam system.
Right. And it's a community kind of a system.
That's a good way to put it. Actually, I would have probably put it a little less accommodating. I think that these steam systems that were put on in these older buildings are almost by design make you open the windows. So I think that's part of the reason why. And I will ask you this question later after we go through all the audience questions, if we have time. What are we going to do next at Sherman Terrace to electrify and maybe allow people to be able to do individual controls? But I will save that a little later.
And remember cozies. We'll talk about cozies later.
Yes. That is true. Very good. So another question, and either one of you can answer. Maybe I think we know the answer. So why don't you address it, Jonathan? Did Dual Fuel perform the domestic hot water upgrade install? Was the conversion from a gas heating to electric heating? Or, basically what is the fuel source for the hot water? And therefore you bypass the boiler for hot water. Can you just describe a little bit about the hot water system, basically?
Sure. I mean, the fuel source didn't change. So the initial oil to gas conversion was on the steam heating boiler. But at that time, there was no separate domestic hot water heater. That came a year or two later. And when that happened, the fuel source didn't change. There was still, the domestic hot water heater still runs on gas, but it consumes less gas to run that dedicated heater, which is a, more modern specialized piece of equipment than to fire up the entire steam boiler during the summer.
Right. Okay. Did the apartment, this is for you, Derek, did the apartment have individual thermostat before the dual fuel retrofit? I think we know the answer.
No,
No, right?
no.
Question on solar energy. So I think this is also for you, Derek. How were you able to save on energy without having to give up any unused solar to another provider? Well, I think you kind of said that because you didn't the solar system were basically less than your overall usage.
Right. So overall, yes, exactly. It only takes up about a third of the overall cost of the total electric bill. So the goal is that you are generating more solar energy and you bank that through the summer months so that when you come around to the winter months, you can draw upon it through the winter. But that's only if you have 100% coverage of your solar. We've only got about a third.
But your system, even just looking at the number of panels, is still very sizable.
Yeah.
So can you share how big is your system?
There are 308 panels.
Right.
And I think the footprint might be 11,000 square feet.
Yeah, it was a very, it's, I want to say is somewhere in the 130 kilowatt range, if I remember that system right. I mean, it's a very sizable system. And still, it addresses 1/3 of the building usage. So there weren't really, I mean, I'm sure there may be some hours that you do produce extra and nobody's home. Okay, so, but in general is consumed because it doesn't completely get consumed. Here's another question. I think it's going to be you again, Derek. Why did you choose gas from an existing oil system instead of electric heat pump? So that, I think the question is, why did you do the fuel conversion from oil to gas rather than switch to an electric heat pump? You might want to talk a little bit about when did that happen?
Yeah, so the oil to gas conversion from number 2 to gas, natural gas, happened in early 2020, 2019-ish. So the idea of an electric pump was not presented to us at that time, and we had not implemented the Climate Mobilization Act and really started to get into the idea of having to reduce our greenhouse gas. And currently, at this moment, just from my novice knowledge, this is not the best time to make a huge electric conversion for Sherman Terrace Cooperative. It could be for other buildings, because the cost of the electricity will drive up your operational costs, because electricity is so high and the infrastructure is not quite in place to receive the demand. So, yeah, does that answer the question?
I hope so, but I think so. But I do think that the basic element is this was done essentially, back in 2019. So certainly the decision was made months before then. So we're really talking about 5 years ago now. And some of the new products that may be much more, let's say, known to us weren't available back then.
Exactly.
I think second, it's very important, and I think audience that have a steam heated building, most in New York City, will know that heat pump conversion brings challenges. You don't have ducts, you can do mini splits, you can do other things, but you have to get rid of the radiator at that point. So each building going to have to decide on what is the best approach.
Right. And I should say also, there we were incentivized. I think the city was incentivizing conversion from oil to gas. So that was our thought process. There was an incentive at the time.
Right.
That's true. It was still happening then.
Yeah.
So we're going to speed up. We got more questions. Folks are, this one should be short. Were there whether upgrade of the building to LED. Is the buildings,
LEDs in the building, that I'm not sure about.
Oh, it's 100% LED.
100% LED?
All the
Done.
common areas are
Okay.
LED.
Mhm.
We also did a program with Con Edison,
Mhm.
and we're able to do with shareholders to get them to swap out all of their old light bulbs and take all LEDs, and you know, I'm hopeful that everybody's doing that. You don't go and
Mhm.
inspect that, but hopefully our energy costs have gone down. So I mean, that has to be part of it. So yes, 100% LED.
Another question is, and I'm going to just shorten it, is basically a board director at a co-op would like to set up meeting with his board to find out how you were able to get solar energy at an affordable cost. Currently, they're paying out loans, so I think so. We certainly hope you reach out to Derek after this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if you find a way to reach out to us, we will make sure to put you in contact with Derek. You don't mind, do you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
We got to help one another. You
Huh.
know?
All right, another question that is, I think this is one that we're gonna have to do some follow-up also. Is apparently another client of yours that they install your system this year. There are sensors on the outlier apartments, 10+ degree hotter than the median. Should you move the sensor to different apartments? Also, they fear from their shareholders in the apartment that their temperature may not be right. So definitely follow up with your dual fuel contact. I think these folks want to hear from you.
I'll just say quickly, you know,
Yeah.
yes, there are times when the sensor readings in certain apartments are very far away from the average or very far
Yes.
away from other apartment readings. And, you know, that could just be due to the actual temperatures in the apartments. But the algorithms are smart enough to exclude outliers so that it doesn't skew the average and, you know, mess up the setting for everyone else in the building.
Yeah, right. But certainly follow up with you or their dual fuel
Yeah,
account.
please follow up and we'll take a look at that.
So I know we're starting to run short of time. If there is more questions come in, that's, you know, we'll make sure to get to our speakers and trying to get back to afterward. But one of the questions that I have, and I just wanted to have you speak to this, and we'll end on this. So I'm going to ask Jonathan first. So obviously, this is in co-ops and condos, but boilers is one area of your focus. So, and installing energy management systems, RTEM in particular, really takes a bit of education, I suspect. And I will follow up with you on that. But on that part of it, do you think that an RTEM system is a low-hanging fruit project for many co-ops and condos that really are looking for a way to save energy, lower costs, and maybe shave off some of their local law 97 obligations?
I think on the, I can speak a little more to the heating side. I mean, I think on both heating and electrical, it's probably the case, but on heating, for sure, if there isn't not yet an RTEM system in the building that looks at the indoor temperature, there's a clear low-hanging fruit. I would highly recommend that you consider putting in an RTEM system because you can reduce a lot of unnecessary equipment operation, which obviously equals more efficiency and healthier bottom line.
And so last question for this webinar is for Derek. Derek, you're our star today. I think one of the things that really impressed me is really your continuous improvement. You have done things over time, and the benefit accrues each time. So it really does take planning and vision. And again, I think when you adopted RTEM, real-time energy management. You said earlier that was somewhat serendipitous that you were looking at. That probably wasn't going to be a top of mind items. So given the fact that you have walked this path, how would you recommend other co-op boards, other condo board that are essentially trying to lower their energy costs, trying to meet local law 97, both in spirit and in action. But certainly cost is a big issue with the interest rate. What would you recommend to them to do?
Well, the first thing that I would recommend for you to do is to find a energy consultant that can help you lay a path that will lay out the cost, lay out the challenges, lay out what you can achieve quickly. For Sherman Terrace Cooperative, that's Empower Group. They have been amazing, and they have opened the door to us continuing to save on energy. They are guiding us down what our next steps will be. Hopefully, our low-hanging fruit is insulation. We live in a building that's in the 1950s, and I don't think they did insulation, so that's going to totally improve things, and hopefully we'll be able to bring down the temperature a little bit more and save more money. So that would be my first step. I would say secondly, and in addition to firstly, build partnerships. Get involved with these people that were sitting, whether it be through NYSERDA or dual fuel. If you ask them questions, they're there to help guide you and get you on the path to solving some of these local law 97 goals. There are so many grants available through NYSERDA now.
And Con Ed.
And Con Edison.
Give them a shout out.
Exactly. We are in our next phase, so we're submitting to the Flex Tech
Yes.
thing. That's what we're doing next, trying to get on with
Excellent.
whatever's going to be next after 2030. So building partnerships, I think, is really important. I have been a person that is probably annoying to the vendors because I follow them around and I ask them questions and I take pictures because, I'm accountable to 67 units, and I have to be able to answer them articulately about why we as a board make these choices. So, communicating with these people, but get an energy consultant to start, and and also you can check out the New York Accelerator. That's another resource that you can put in your data, and they will point you to some vendors that can get you started. You probably don't know what your low-hanging fruit is until you get someone that can kind of say that would fix it.
Derek, thank you so much for sharing your experience. Jonathan, thank you for participating in this RTEM talk. And thanks to the audience for your time and submitting your questions. I'm going to turn it back to Lauren.
All right, thank you, Thomas. Thank you all for submitting those questions. That was a lot of questions that came in. And thank you again to our panelists for sharing your insights with us. And thank you everybody also for filling out the survey that was at the beginning. It looks like we have a mix of people in the group. We have a few people who live in a multifamily building, 3 that are on the board of a multifamily building. We have a good number of consultants, architects, and engineers in the audience. And it seems like for the second question, most people were interested in RTEM for apartments and then for co-ops. So thank you again for taking that survey. That helps us to know who's on the call. So just housekeeping notes. We will post this recording. We'll send out a copy of the deck and also a link to the recording once it's up on YouTube. I'll finish up by pointing to a number of resources from the RTEM program. So we have numerous case studies online, both multifamily and commercial properties. So properties that have gone through the same process as 1010 Sherman. They have their savings online. And most importantly, we have a list of qualified vendors, which is a great place to start as you consider real-time energy management for your building. So you can reach us at rtem@nyserda.ny.gov with any questions or feedback. And for anybody in the chat who requested to be put in touch with the panelists, we'll follow up with that as well. And I'll give you guys back a few minutes. We're not quite at 3 o'clock. So thank you all again for joining today and have a great afternoon.